Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am so excited. We have an epic show for you this afternoon. We have got all special guests. Charlie Kirk, founder and president of Turning Point USA. Thank you so much for being here. We've got Mr. Jesse Kelly himself, the man, the myth, the legend.
In the flesh.
Yes, and we've got Brandon Tatum, also with Turning Point USA, who just had an amazing speech earlier at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. We heard you brought down the house, so whoever did not catch it, I'm sure it will be available online.
And he's got the coolest hat out there. Everyone's got to go get it.
Yeah,
it's the stylish MAGA hat, right?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that everyone can tell. You think that it's just a hat, right? Yeah. Oh, it's just a red hat. Oh, no, it's not. It says MAGA on it.
Yeah, the purpose of it is for people to have an opportunity to go out and support the president without feeling like they can get knocked upside the head of there's food spitting in. So we tried to give an alternative. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being bold, but this is a sleek version of MAGA support. So.
And also, just a side note, it's kind of sad that that's where we're at today.
It is very sad.
You have to hide your support of the president and the country. Seems kind of backwards, but all right, Charlie, so what is the top story for you today?
Well, just more broadly and generally, I really have my eyes, and I talked to Senator Marsha Blackburn yesterday about this, just on China. And I think that China's an issue that we've ignored for so long, and I consider China to be the greatest enemy to the United States and greatest enemy to Western civilization. And I love what the president is doing, holding China in check, and just kind of how we are kind of recalibrating our entire approach to China through trade, I think is so important. I mean, they've been stealing our IP, hacking our cyber grid, building islands in South China Sea, taking over almost all of sub-Saharan Africa and South America, and they've gone unchecked for far too long. And so, yeah, just more broadly and generally how, China needs to have a bigger focal point and attention put towards it.
Okay, all right, Jesse.
I'm also interested in that part of the world, but actually Japan. They've got a high heel situation over there. Some of the workers are protesting about the work requirements, saying they need to wear high heels. I think it's important that Japan, the Bushido code and all that, stick with their tradition of making people wear high heels because no one wants to see women at work in flats. So.
Such a troll. All right,
I almost took that serious for me.
Yeah, you're going to learn real quick this guy is hardly ever serious. All right, funny. Brandon, what's your top
For me,
story?
it's the overarching idea from the left, people like Joe Biden who are pushing abortions in this country, and I think that a lot of the conversation is not being put on the man. Mm-hmm. And what I spoke about in my speech today was that abortions, although it has a tremendous effect on women, but it prevents men from holding their end of the obligation. That young men can go out and have sex with women and not have responsibility. They expect a young woman to go out and be on her own or have an abortion. And I don't think that's right. I think that young men should be responsible. If you want to lay down, then you should take care of your child from the cradle all the way to the grave. That should be your responsibility. And I think that the conversation continues to push women into this type of lifestyle that I don't think is conducive and I don't think it's appropriate.
Obviously, a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So American Financing is not one of those companies who they've got a bunch of salespeople working for them and they're commission-based and they're just in it to get an extra kickback from, the institution. Yeah, that's not how they work. They have salary-based people that are there just to help you. I know that they tried to do business with Glenn before the crash of 2008, and Glenn didn't do business with any financial companies. And he said, yeah, okay, come back to me after the crash and we'll see if you guys are still around. Well, they did. They came back and they said, we're still here because we do things the right way. And then, at that point, it was done. But so if you are in the market for a refi or a loan, whatever the case may be, American Financing are going to be the ones that you are going to want to go to. They will help you get the job done, and they will put you in something that is smart and makes sense for you and your family. You can go to AmericanFinancing.net or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, Charlie, you obviously believe that we should be very cautious about China and what they're doing and our approach to them.
Yeah.
I want to ask you first, there's been a lot of pushback on the tariffs that Trump has implemented on them. What would you say to people who are critical of his tariffs?
We need to intensify them and ramp them up further. This is the last chance we have to hold China in check. I mean, would you want tariffs or do you want missiles? And I'm not being overly dramatic in saying that China wants a full-fledged takeover of our country and civilization as we know it. First, look how they're running their own country. They're putting Muslims in prison. They're instituting a social credit score, total censorship of their own citizens. It's really scary what's going on there. They're not capitalists. They're not communist. They're state-run markets where the government can take over anything at any time. So that's how they're running their own country, and they're expanding. They want to take back Taiwan. They want to take back Nepal. They want to take back all those areas. They're building islands in the South China Sea. They've purchased most very, very vulnerable companies in Africa. They've purchased their infrastructure, their IT grid. They're trying to take over our military technology and our satellites. Not to mention they've been killing us on trade for years, killing us. And I'm a free market guy. I totally am. But I just kind of find it surprising that we can't even have a conversation about, okay, so tariffs, we say they're taxes. Okay, fine. I do agree with that. But do we want no taxes in our society? Like, I would rather have a 5% tariff with China and lower the income tax. Yeah. Like, so if we have taxes, I would rather have a tariff in some sort with China, a country that hates our guts, that has total contempt for our way of life, no religious freedom, no individual freedom. I think it's long overdue to hold them in check. And we want to try to prevent any sort of military escalation. War is the worst thing that can ever happen, basically. And I think this right now is the last chance we have to hold China in its place before that they become more powerful than we are.
Yeah, Jesse, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think it's one of the bravest things I've seen a sitting president do is to put tariffs on a country that we import so many goods from, because there's no political advantage in that. When the economy's booming as it is and Trump's heading into re-election, the smart thing to do, well, the smart political thing to do would be to just coast and sit back. But it actually shows how much he believes in this. It's something he's preached on for decades, whether you agree with him or not. He believes in it all the way, and it really is a national security thing. And it's not anti-free trade to hammer tariffs on China. He's renegotiating a contract. A free trade agreement is not free trade. It's a contract. He's renegotiating a contract so we can get better terms. And they need us more than we need them, so screw them.
Yeah, Brandon?
Yeah, and it's clear that the president is focusing on what's best for America. And a businessman that do business globally, I trust and believe that he understands how the process works. He is a master negotiator. So I love the fact that he's standing up strong, and I really do believe in the fact that it'll be beneficial to America. But I love to see the president doing things not for political gain, but because he believes it's the right thing to do.
The right thing to do.
And Biden discounts the threat. I mean, first of all, Biden's son, his fund is funded by the Chinese and gets very little coverage. Biden's like, oh, the Chinese, they're great people. No, they're not great people. I think great people put 10 million Muslims in prison. That's great people. You think great people have a social credit score for their citizens? You know what the #1 religious viewpoint in China is? Atheism. There's no religious freedom in China. I mean, Christians are persecuted and under attack, and this is who Biden calls great people. It's despicable. And this idea that we should just be light on China is wrong. We have better ideas than they do. We believe in human freedom. They don't. And if we're not careful, they will continue to take over parts of the world, and then we'll be weaker because of it.
Well, they're buying influence already, too, when it comes to Hollywood, because Hollywood has to market so many of their movies in China.
They're all made for China.
We can't even get a pro-America, anti-China movie, even though they're our main adversary, our really only threat in the entire world. You can't get a movie out there that's pro-America, anti-China, because Hollywood's trying to sell their movies in China, and that kind of influence sucks.
And this might be an unpopular opinion with people, and I had this conversation with a free trade guy, but I know myself personally, I have so much crap in my house I don't even use, just piles of clothes, and like it's all made in China, almost all of it. And I thought to myself, if I had half of this and I paid a little bit more and it's manufactured in America and I wasn't, funding the rise of the greatest enemy of the 21st, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And to our farmers, I understand the hurt that they have there. But by the way, a small part of their business is actually exports to China, a small part. But ask ourselves, what do we buy from China that we need? Very little. What do they buy from us that they need? A lot. Food, energy, resources, intellectual capital. And they have a lot of problems there. They have a lot of people that live in poverty, and their economy's a mess. Our economy's amazing. Their economy's a mess. And so for people that aren't paying attention, China's the issue to focus on.
Do you worry at all? Because I'm torn on this. I worry that with the tariffs, Jesse, you mentioned the economy's booming right now. There's really, no need to do it on that end. I worry that if some sort of recession hits at the right time before the election, that it's going to hurt Trump get reelected. Do you worry at all that the tariffs could kind of snowball into that right before the election?
It could. But that just shows the courage the president has. He doesn't care. No other president would pick a fight with China before a re-election. He's like, I want what's best for the country. I mean, if I get reelected and people see that I do what's best for the country, then so be it. Every other politician, including both Bushes, Clinton, and Obama, ignored China. They let China become this powerful megaplex. And Trump says no more. If I have to pay a political price for it, so be it. He knows the consequences of 25% tariffs. He knows that. He knows it's going to be uncomfortable and markets will react adversely to that. And like you said, he's renegotiating a contract and he's really good at it.
Do you think the Democrats will have a chance
at winning?
Yeah.
Of course they stand a chance. I mean, I handicap the odds in Trump's favor for a lot of different reasons. But look, I don't think we'll get into recession. I don't think that's in the cards. I think the Democrats are hoping for it.
Yeah.
I've never seen a group of people that want to see America fail more than Democrats.
Yeah, I don't think I would say I don't think they have a chance. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like that they're promoting anything as an impartial American citizen. They're not promoting anything that makes me feel confident that they can lead this country. And when you look at what Trump is doing, you talk about what he's doing in China, he's taking a risk. Mm-hmm. Anybody in America, the entrepreneur spirit of America is taking risks. And I would love to see the president do that. But these guys, gals, to me, majority of them are clowns. I mean, they're literally piling in the clown car. And I don't know what their expectation is. They're literally opposing the president at every end. If they may agree with his dealings with China, they can't say it. They can't tell the truth. They can't give an equal perspective because they have to fight him in every end. And I feel like that's going to destroy them completely.
Yeah, it's hard when the only thing you're running on is impeach. Nothing.
Right.
Well, socialism and also impeach.
Well, it tells you how much trouble they know they're in. I've been telling everybody that's how you know the Democrats know they're in trouble. They're not running on anything tangible because we have all these foreign policy wins. We have the defeat of ISIS, which we actually never even talk about anymore. People forget how big ISIS was only 2 years ago. Yeah. ISIS is done. The economy's booming. And so there's an old saying in law, even though I went to community college, that if you have the truth, you pound the truth. If you have the facts, you pound facts. And if you don't have any of that, you pound the table. And that's what the Democrats are doing right now. They're just pounding the table. That's why it's all Mueller and impeach. Otherwise, they'd be running on employment or anything like that. But look, it's hard to unseat a sitting president. It's impossible to unseat one with a good economy.
Yeah. Jesse, I want to move on to what's going on in Japan.
It's maybe the biggest issue in the world right now.
This is a huge issue for you. High heels.
Absolutely.
Who would have thought?
Well, look, I mean, we just have to have some standards in this world. And I understand that women and some men in Japan have joined together to protest. A bunch of businesses over there, just like here, have dress standards for their women when they show up to work, that they have to be in high heels. Women are complaining that high heels cause foot pain, having never worn them personally. I don't know, maybe you do have. I can't say whether that's a yes or a no. But I will just say, I mean, look, there are plenty of things I wear that aren't necessarily the most comfortable thing in the world. I'd love to be sitting here in basketball shorts and a wife beater, but I have to have standards because we are in a professional environment. So I just think high heels should be the way everybody should go. Plus, in Japan, they're all like 5 feet tall. Why do you want to be in high heels?
I had no idea that there was a mandatory rule that women had to wear.
With certain businesses, not with the country as a whole, but certain businesses in Japan. And like I said before, I was joking, obviously, but it is an older country, a more traditional country. They're much more strict about certain things, especially certain parts of it. And there are a lot of businesses that say show up in high heels or don't show up at all.
Now, I know that you're joking, but I would just like to point out, you wearing that jacket is not the same as, my feet on an X-ray being like curled up because the bone structure has changed because I have to shove my foot into a high heel every day.
Climbing Mount Everest isn't easy either. Sacrifices have to be made if you want to achieve greatness.
That's it.
It's a good calf workout, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to me that how the traditions are just so unchanged there.
Well, it's been that kind of country. It's been so insular. They've been that way forever. It took them forever to transition out of swords and into muskets, which is something they had to do, pre-World War I. They were just there. I don't want to call it backwards because it's not. It's just a different place. It's an insular place, and they do their own thing. And look, it's obviously harmed them at some points in the past in World War II when they got super fanatical. It's just a different place. I've been there a couple of times. I think it's a fascinating culture. And their food's good. It's a lot better than Chinese food.
Oh,
and
people
complain about America,
I know. I know. We're so oppressed here in America. Right. Try all of the females here. Try being in Japan and having to wear high heels because I know all of the third wave feminists. They're not wearing heels.
Plus, all their dudes are short.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jesse Kelly, pro high heel. Who knew? Back in a minute. All right, before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Cruise Through History. So there is a really amazing cruise taking place next spring. So spring of 2020, be ready to mark your calendars. You are going to go on a cruise through the Eastern Mediterranean. You're going to visit Venice, Croatia, Jerusalem, Greece. You're going to visit all of these amazing places. And you're probably thinking to yourself right now, oh my gosh, there's a lot of history involved in all of these places. Yes, there is. And that is why you will be joined by Glenn Beck. You will be joined by Bill O'Reilly, by David Barton, Rabbi Lappin, and Stu Bergier. They are all going to be traveling to these places with you. Who better to travel with you than all of these gentlemen? They know the history of these places. They know, this is where the roots of Western civilization is, and they are going to be there right alongside you, teaching you all of these tidbits. You're going to come home and you're going to be like, I'm actually historied out. I didn't realize that could happen, that could be a thing, but I am. It's going to be an amazing time. You can go to comesailaway.com for more details. I know there's different packages, different options that you can pick there. So go to comesailaway.com. Be ready to mark your calendars. All right, Brandon, I know you said that you spoke earlier today at the Young Women's Leadership Summit about abortion, and that you have a very unique male perspective on it. And I think it's something that we don't get a lot of the time. We don't get the male perspective because we're so busy listening to, not just the media, but just feminists and that whole sector just pushing the narrative, my body, my choice, abortion is healthcare, and they've got all of these messages that they're trying to, twist the conversation. And nobody talks about the male perspective.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, I'm a father, and when I found out that his mom was pregnant, I mean, that's just a part of me as anything else, My DNA is in that young boy. He's 8 years old now, and he looked just like me, actually. So it's my son, and my responsibility is the same. And I have my own personal story, but my son's mom almost had an abortion. I mean, we were in Planned Parenthood. I didn't know what Planned Parenthood stood for. I thought it was a good women's health program for women. And when I get to the front door, she told me, when I'm having an abortion, I'm not here to see how far along I am. I'm actually having an abortion. And I was hurt. And I sat in the lobby and I prayed. And she wasn't able to go through with it. And I thank God for that. But now my son is a boy. I mean, he's growing, and I'm so happy with him. And again, the responsibility is with the man. And I think that people forget that abortions is not just affecting the character and behavior of women, it affects the character and behavior of the young man that's involved. It takes two people to tango. And men need to be more responsible. You can't have a pass. You can't just walk away from a young lady and hope that she have an abortion. Some young ladies have abortions because they are put in that position. But young men need to stay around and take care of their children. And we need to be better as a society, take accountability. Sometimes I make speeches and I say I'm pro-life and pro-choice. And I say the reason why I say that is that I believe life starts at conception. I'm pro-life, and I believe I'm pro-choice in the fact that the choice was made in a bedroom, not at the abortion clinic. And I really think people need to be more cognizant of personal responsibility. And I feel like that the left, what they do best is they want the world to change. They don't want people to change. It's more beneficial if a person would just change their ways instead of trying to force the world to change based on one individual's perspective.
Yeah. Charlie, you want to weigh in?
It's a lot of wisdom there. I mean, that's exactly right. The left would rather try to have the world change and never have themselves become better people. They want to value impose on the external, but not actually go through the tough decisions themselves. I mean, they're the liberals that are shouting at our events where Brandon and I go speak on campus that have the messy hair, they haven't showered in days, their dormitory's a mess, and yet they're telling us that, everything that's wrong with our life. And I'm sorry, it doesn't look like you have yourself really organized right now. How could you have your thoughts organized? And I mean, Brandon has an amazing testimony about it. And abortion just gets so demagogued in the media, and just shame on the media the way that they misrepresent this. And there's just so many. I mean, if you look at actually the Florida abortion statistics, I think like 92% of all abortions in Florida are for selective reasons. They're not for rape, incest, life of the mother. It might even be higher than that. Yeah. And so we have the whole conversation based on an exception where the rule, where unfortunately abortions become a form of birth control. That was never the way that this was sold to the American people. It was always sold as something that was rare and safe, and there was another way. I can never remember the last word.
Safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah, there we go. That's exactly right. Safe, legal, and rare. I can never remember it. But it's not anymore. Now it's abundant. Yeah. And in New York City, and Brandon comments on this all the time, a black woman, if she's pregnant, has a higher likelihood to get an abortion than have the baby. The abortion rate is higher in New York City than the birth rate. So if you see a pregnant black woman there's a higher percentage chance that she'll go to Planned Parenthood than the delivery room. Think about that. How is that a good thing? And here's the final thing I'll say is, I don't understand how we as a society have accepted the fact that the black community's birth rate has stagnated over the last 50 years, right? Yeah. How many lives, how many dreams are just disappeared? And these are individuals. These are people that could have done amazing things, and we just snatched their life away for reasons I don't think that are acceptable.
Well, I look at Ben Carson, for example. You know,
he's changed the world.
Yeah, everybody's, you know, they have this excuse, well, I'm not ready. Well, I don't think his mom was ready. She couldn't even read. So, but she pushed through and she gave life to one of the most brilliant people on
neurosurgeon.
Yeah. And so who knows the next brilliant person that can have a cure for something or can be a great person to change the world. You don't know that. And you are killing that child. And here's one thing. We as a society have to come to the conclusion, is it murder or not?
Right. If
it's not murder and it's okay, then we don't need it to be rare. You can have as many as you want. But if it's murder, which I believe that it is, then we should not be participating in that. And there was another point that I was thinking about rape. We always talk about rape, which is obviously the exception to the rule. But my grandmother was raped at 12 years old and had my mom. And I often think that what if they would have had an abortion in that case? I wouldn't even be here. Yeah. And my mom wouldn't be, my brother wouldn't be here. So, and my parent and my grandparents forgave my grandfather for what he did. And I think our society needs to get back to that moral standard where we say it's not the kid's fault that their dad is a scumbag and decided to rape the mom. The kid deserves to have life at that point. And I think we as a society, we need to get back to that.
Jesse, I know the left has just gone completely radical, obviously, and extreme on the case of abortion, even not condemning infanticide. They're going that far. Is it going to blow up in their face?
Yeah, but it'll take time, and they're not actually more radical than they've ever been before. Leftists don't value the individual, not when they're born, not when they're old, not in the prime of their life. Everybody just serves, everybody just exists to serve the state. And that's why atheism's so big in China and state-run places like that. It's why atheism's so big in communist places. Instead of looking at an individual as they are, which is a unique, God-breathed life, whether they cure cancer or lay bricks for a living, that is a unique life that deserves a shot at life. Leftists don't look at it that way. Everything is service to the state, and if you really don't value to them, you don't matter to them, and they show it every single day.
Yeah, and people say, oh, Charlie, you're anti-woman for that stance. Well, what about the women that were aborted?
Yes.
I mean, if on average, if you just play the odds, half of pregnancies, it's 50% chance women, 50% chance men, right? It's a coin flip. That means 30 million women have been aborted.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, I think not just abortion, but feminism, all these things, I actually think people are surprised to hear me say it. I think it's a failure of men, not women. It's a failure of men to lead. The more the left has gotten a foothold, the more feminism has gotten a foothold in the country, the more abortions we've had. That's not an accident. Men should be leading on the issue instead of being intimidated. And no, I'm so scared, I'm not allowed to have a say-so. Shut up and be a man. You actually do have a say-so. That's a life. Whether it's in her body or not, as a man, it's your job to protect those who can't protect themselves. Men should be leading on the issue and not scared to say something.
And what amazes me, and I still haven't put my finger on it, but I do have the theory that this is the issue that drives the left more than anything else. I mean, they get angry about stuff, but it's just this issue in particular. There is no dialogue,
which is sick too. That's
I can't. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to maybe 10 years from now I'll finally wake up. But for whatever reason, the anger around this issue, would you agree, is just unlike anything.
It's become their religion.
There's no dialogue.
Yeah. All right. Back in a minute. All right, we've got about a minute here. I know there's a really big conference going on right here for Turning Point. Yeah. Can people still get tickets?
Yes, sure. They can go to tpusa.com/YWLS or just go to tpusa.com. That's too many letters. Right? You can get there. Brandon spoke brilliantly this morning, and he's been hanging out and meeting with a lot of our young ladies. Largest young women's leadership summit for conservatives ever in the history of the country. 1,300 young women, standing room only. We still have a couple days of programming left. Dallas, Texas. If you're in the area or a couple hours away, come in. You won't regret it.
And then, Brandon, really quickly, tell people where they can get this stylish MAGA hat.
Yeah, so in the spirit of capitalism, I have my own store. It's TheOfficerTatum.
Buy stuff, it's good stuff. And he has a great shirt that says life begins at conception, not perception.
Right.
Oh,
Made in America.
I love it. All right, we've got overtime coming up next. Stick with us, blazetv.com.